it turns out with a busy Manhattan life, apparently the only way I can get these videos in is by doing them while I'm walking down the street. So here I am. Today I want to talk about emotional trauma and specifically being re-traumatized. So, for example, when someone is traumatized physically, they have broken a limb, they've experienced extreme physical abuse, torture for war victims. That's a physical trauma, but what's actually stored in their body is emotional trauma. So the same thing would have happened to me in my marriage. Regardless of what type of abuse I was suffering from emotional trauma, how my body was able to process and move through the feelings. When the story became national news and I was being asked over and over again to retell those details, it was as if my body was reliving the reality of that trauma. How traumatized you are depends on, first of all, how stable and supported you felt before the trauma, but most importantly, how stable and supported you felt after the trauma. How were you able to process it? How were you able to make sense and make amends with yourself or with your emotions after the trauma? So for me, I thought that I had done the work to move through all of that trauma, but what happened was the media was now attacking me and asking me to tell salacious details. Things that I hadn't thought about, that I hadn't spoken about, and that I certainly wasn't looking forward to reliving. So the emotional trauma re-traumatized me. And I think a lot of that is what led to the PTSD. My post-traumatic stress was less perhaps about the trauma that I experienced in my marriage and much more about how I was being treated as an object, as a political pawn, and as the next big scoop. As I'm working through the ideas of trauma and I'm working through healing from that trauma, it's important for me to recognize it is not the trauma itself, it is how you process it and work through it. I think I'll talk more about that in another video, but for now, let's just rest with that. Thank you for being here.